I found out my husband has a second family. 2 blocks away. There's something surreal about betrayal. You think you'll cry, scream, maybe throw something. But when I found out, I just stood still. Completely silent. Frozen. It felt like the universe had paused, as if even it didn't know how to process what I had just learned. It started with a casserole. Yes, a casserole. Not the dramatic kind of origin story you'd expect, but sometimes, it's the quiet things that lead to chaos. It was a Tuesday morning, nothing special. I had kissed my husband, Mark, goodbye as he left for work at 7:45 a.m. sharp, like clockwork. He always wore that same clean scent, sandalwood and citrus, thanks to the cologne I bought him every year for Christmas. He smiled, sipped the coffee I made, and kissed my forehead like always. I remember the warmth of that moment. It made what I found out later feel even colder. Around 10 a.m., I decided to visit Mrs. Langley, our 83-year-old neighbor who had just returned from the hospital. I baked her a tuna casserole, wrapped it in foil, and made the 5-minute walk 2 blocks down. I hadn't been down that street in ages. It was a quiet cul-de-sac tucked just out of my usual walking route. Houses lined with hydrangeas and trimmed hedges, each one nearly identical. But it was the blue bicycle that caught my eye. It was leaning casually against the porch of a modest 2-story home. I froze mid-step. That bicycle, black seat with a red scratch on the side and a missing reflector, was Mark's. I'd helped him fix the chain just last month. He told me he only used it for weekend rides, said it helped him decompress. I stepped closer, casserole forgotten. Maybe he had a friend here. Maybe he was doing a good deed. That's what I told myself. But my stomach was already in knots. Then I saw him. Mark. Through the front window. Holding a toddler. Laughing. The child had Mark's hazel eyes, same dimple on the left cheek. My brain scrambled for excuses, but the math was doing itself faster than I could stop it. A woman entered the room, smiling. She kissed him. Kissed him. Not a peck like a friend or sister. A real kiss. Familiar. Comfortable. The kind you give to someone who belongs to you. The casserole hit the sidewalk with a dull thud. I backed away, each step trembling. I made it to Mrs. Langley's, handed her the dish without a word, and rushed home. I locked the door behind me and slid down to the floor, heartbeat roaring in my ears. The days that followed, I didn't confront him right away. I wish I could say I had a dramatic moment of justice, a table flipping, tear-streaked revelation. But I didn't. I watched. Observed. I turned into someone I didn't recognize. I checked his phone when he showered. Nothing. No texts. No pictures. Clean as a whistle. But then, again, he was always meticulous. A creature of habit. I started taking walks past that house. Her name was Sophie. I found it on the mailbox. She was beautiful, in that effortless kind of way, long dark hair, soft laugh, floaty dresses. The toddler's name was Mia. One day, I followed him. Instead of turning toward his supposed job, he went straight to Sophie's. And stayed. I stood across the street like a ghost. By the end of the week, I had gathered enough pieces of the puzzle to form a picture. Mark wasn't just cheating. He had built a whole second life. 2 blocks away. Less than 700 feet from our wedding. Photo. The confrontation. It was a Sunday evening when I finally cracked He came home smelling of Sophie's jasmine perfume. I was in the kitchen, pouring wine, pretending to be normal. "Hey babe," he said, dropping his keys into the bowl. "What's for dinner?" I handed him a plate of casserole. "Tuna. The same one I made the day I found out." He looked at it. Then at me. "Didn't you make this earlier this week?" "Yeah," I said, watching him closely. "I took it to Mrs. Langley. Remember?" His eyes darted. "Right. How is she?" "She's fine. You know, I saw your bike down there." Silence. I stood and walked closer. "Funny. You always keep it in the garage." He didn't speak. His fork hovered midair. So I took a walk. 2 blocks down. Pretty house. Hydrangeas. Cute little girl named Mia. Mark went pale. And a woman. Sophie, I think her name is. Lovely girl. Great taste in candles. You should have told me. You like jasmine. He dropped the fork. I know everything, Mark. He didn't deny it. Didn't even try. Just sat there, defeated. How long? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. He exhaled. 3 years. My knees gave way. I sat back down. 3 years. I repeated. You have a daughter? He nodded. She's 2.5. I felt sick. Do you love her? I asked. He hesitated. I love both of you. That hurt more than anything. Because that meant he was never confused. Never torn. He chose to live 2 lives. To lie, over and over, with the calmness of a man brushing his teeth. The fallout. The silence after his confession wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. Loud in a way only silence can be. It pressed against my chest like a weight I couldn't push off. I sat there, unmoving, as Mark tried to fill the void with explanations, weak, trembling words that barely passed for apologies. I never meant for it to happen, he said, voice cracking. It started during one of our rough patches. You remember that time, when we were arguing a lot? I met her at the gym. She was kind. I scoffed. Kind? That's the bar now. He flinched. I didn't mean to fall in love with her, he added. But then Mia came along, and I cut him off. And what? You thought the best plan was to keep us both? Like some twisted modern day fairy tale? He didn't answer. I want you out, I said, each word clear and hard. Tonight. But. No buts, Mark. You can go 2 blocks down the road. It's not a long trip, is it? He packed slowly, like he was waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. That night, I watched him leave. I stood at the front window, arms wrapped around myself, and watched the man I married walk away, not to a hotel or a lonely apartment, but home. Home to his second family. The rebuilding. The days that followed were strange. Grief is peculiar. It doesn't hit all at once. It trickles. First, the silence in the house becomes deafening. Then, the empty coffee cup in the morning feels like an accusation. Later, the missing toothbrush glares at you from the bathroom sink. But I didn't fall apart, not publicly. I became efficient. Called a lawyer. Froze the joint accounts. Took his name off the utilities. My therapist called it productive rage. I called it survival. But nights were harder. That's when the memories crept in, uninvited. Our wedding day. His proposal under the oak tree. The night we danced barefoot in the kitchen. They came back like ghosts, mocking, taunting. One evening, I sat on the kitchen floor, holding our wedding album, flipping through it like a stranger. Studying someone else's life. There we were, two people full of promise. Two people smiling at a lie they hadn't discovered yet. That's when I started journaling. Not because I wanted to heal, but because I needed somewhere to put all the venom, the heartbreak, the questions. And somewhere along the way, healing began anyway. The unraveling of the other side. A month after he left, Sophie showed up. It was a Tuesday. Rainy. She wore a yellow raincoat, hair pulled into a messy bun, mascara smudged. Like she'd been crying. I opened the door slowly, not sure what I was expecting. A confrontation? A fight? But she just stood there, shaking. I didn't know, she said. I stared at her. Didn't know what? That he was married. I swear to God, I didn't know. I stepped aside. Let her in. Part curiosity, part madness. She sat on the couch, holding a damp tissue. He told me he was divorced. Said you were difficult. That you didn't want children. That you'd moved on. I laughed, bitter and sharp. Creative. She looked up, eyes wide. He said he was staying with a friend while he sorted things out. That's why. He always left at night. I wanted to hate her. Needed to, maybe. But she looked as broken as I felt. I found out 2 weeks ago, she said, voice trembling. I went through his drawer and found pictures of you. Your wedding. Your house. I confronted him. He admitted everything. I felt the burn in my chest again. And you still stayed? She hesitated. I have a daughter. Those 4 words settled like lead between us. We sat there, 2 women with matching scars. Linked by the same betrayal. Before she left, she turned back and asked, "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I said. "But I'll figure it out." A year later. I kept the house. People told me to sell it, start fresh. But I couldn't. Not yet. That house was mine, too. I'd painted the walls, planted the garden, cried into those pillows long before he split his soul between 2 lives. I changed the locks. Painted the front door. Got a dog named Waffles. He hates tuna casserole. A kindred spirit. And I started writing. First, a blog, anonymous, raw, and unfiltered. Then essays. Then a book deal. Turns out, people connect to heartbreak. There's a strange kinship in shared pain. Mark tried to come back. Twice. The first time, he came with apologies and nostalgia. The second time, he came with tears and custody issues. He and Sophie had split up. She moved to a different city with Mia. He wanted visitation. Stability. But I was done being the stable one for a man who built his life on lies. I told him no. To everything. The final piece. Sometimes, people ask if I still love him. I don't. But I remember loving him. That's the curse. The memories don't disappear. They just lose their warmth. I don't pass his street anymore. I don't look back. Instead, I walk forward, always forward. Because the truth is, betrayal doesn't define me. His lies may have broken my world, but I built a new one with the pieces. And in this new world, there's peace. There's honesty. There's me. Whole. Unshattered. Unapologetic.